Now it's time for The Journey of a Lifetime, Chapter 7. It's a small world after all. 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 Oh, I'm sorry, did I unintentionally annoy you with that song? Well, let me just say this in my defense. When you name your chapter after the song that's constantly being sung at Disneyland rides that are called that are named It's a Small World After All, you're gonna get a little sing-song, just so you know. Day and night. Day and night. Sunrise and sunset. Sunrise and sunset. Day, night, day, night, day, night, day, night. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, January, February, March, April, May. Sorry, I'll stop. It was clockwork. Time passed. Before they had realized it, Plucky, Scarlet, and Dash had been staying with Buck and Heather for weeks. It was all necessary, though, and Plucky's injuries were healing, albeit slowly. Plucky felt he was actually being incarcerated inside the earth. The others only let him go outside for fresh air. He knew, though, it was all for its benefit. They didn't want to risk Plucky opening up his wounds while they were still healing, and nor did he, particularly the one large gash on his left front leg. The others all took it in turns to keep him company, and often Scarlet would hunt for him and bring him food and water from an old saucepan that Buck and Heather had stolen from a campsite ages ago. I can't believe how nice Buck and Heather are. They really are generous. They barely knew these three when they first met, and yet Buck was willing to let them in, just because Plucky needed it. So kind. During another cool, clear night, Scarlet and Heather were out hunting. Dash slept in one of separate chambers of the earth, and Plucky, unable to sleep, was chatting with Buck in the main hall. Plucky was telling Buck the story of how he got here, including the bit that Dash and Scarlet had left out. When Plucky met Scarlet, and the argument with his grandfather which led to his leaving White Deer Park. It was during this conversation that Plucky finally understood why Buck looked so similar to Fox. Drum roll for dramatic effect. Wait, what did you say? Buck interrupted. That my grandfather would be pretty mad at me for leaving the park? Plucky repeated himself. No, what did you say your grandfather's name was again? Fox. You mean his name is Fox? Yeah, Plucky explained. So you're saying your grandfather Fox, the famous Farthing Wood fox's name, is Fox? Buck said, intrigued, surprisingly not tripping over his words. Yes, Plucky explained, again wondering what Buck was misunderstanding. For a few sentences, I'm going to nickname Buck Bucky, because, when you put a Y after Buck, it's Bucky, like Bucky from the Marvel Comics, the best friend of Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Or called he's called the White Wolf now, isn't he? Bucky the White Wolf. Awesome. And does he look very similar to me? Well, yes, actually. But I didn't say anything because I thought it was weird. Pardon me. Wow. I never knew the Farthing Wood fox was in fact my elder brother. What? Oh God. Wait, what? Plucky asked, confused. Fox is my brother. How do you know that for sure? Well, from what you've said, it all adds up. Plus, you do remind me of him in a way, Buck announced. Plucky wondered to himself for a bit. As well as inheriting a lot of traits from his father, he'd inherited a lot from his grandfather too. He could understand why Buck could tell the resemblance. So, if my grandfather is your brother, then that makes you my granduncle, Plucky stated. Yes, I suppose it does. And you're my grandnephew. Wow. It really is a small world, Plucky laughed. It certainly is. Bucky chuckled also. Hang on, why was my grandfather just named Fox and you got a more unique name? Plucky pondered. Actually, Buck isn't my original name. So what were you called originally? Just so you understand, it was only because our mother was very, very unimaginative when it came to naming her cubs. Bucky paused and sighed, wondering if he should really embarrass himself in front of his newly discovered grandnephew. Fox was the firstborn, so he was called Fox, and I was called Fox 2. Okay, I'm out of that name. How about Fox 2, the second part? Or how about Fox the third? Or wait, how about, Fox Forever? Feel free to give him some more movie title-like names in the comments below, guys, but I would prefer I'd call him Buck or Bucky. What? Plucky fell over to his side, laughing. Really? I told you my mother was unimaginative with names, Bucky said, embarrassed, folding his ears and lowering his head while Plucky continued to roll on the floor, laughing. Come on, Plucky, Buck mumbled in annoyance. Okay, I'm sorry. Plucky staggered to sit up again. Still, that is funny. How did you start calling yourself Buck then? Oh, that was because once I left the family Earth, I was always coming across other animals and helping them, and telling them to cheer up and stuff, Bucky explained. One of them called me a buck or something. I can't really remember, it was years ago, but I kinda liked it as a name, so of course I ran with it. Buck eventually finished with a smile. Better than having a number in your name. Yes, definitely. The two foxes laughed and continued to talk. Plucky was intrigued to hear Buck tell stories of his and Fox's cubhood. Some of them he found hard to believe, as it sounded nothing like how he portrayed his grandfather. He had heard most of the stories about his father, uncle, and aunt's cubhood, but hearing about his grandfather's was certainly the most interesting. Did Fox ever get around to telling Plucky about his cubhood? Wow. So many revelations. I am definitely in love with Buck now. I need a drink after that. Scarlet was sitting outside on top of the stone boulders, taking in the scenery. It was nighttime, The sky was clear with a sea of black and tiny static glowing islands which were the stars. There would have been more of the celestial expanse above to admire, but the bright moon dominated most of the sky. It shone down upon the land, bathing it in a silver radiance. With the light of the moon, Scarlet could see as far as her eyes would let her. She gazed at the snow-capped mountains in the distance and lower lands and forests before it. It was colder now. Winter was coming. The clear skies allowed the cold to linger, and a bitter wind blew across the landscape. The young vixen could feel the cool breeze brush through her fur, and while she stayed sitting upright, she stayed low, wrapping her thick bushy tail around her black paws to keep them warm. "Hey, do you mind having some company?" Someone calmly called out to Scarlet. Scarlet turned her head round, slightly startled to see it was Heather. She hadn't even heard her come up behind her. Either she was very good at being stealthy, or her own skills were lacking practice. "Not at all," Scarlet conceded. Heather then joined and sat next to her, looking out into the distance. "Beautiful, isn't it? The landscape at night, the moon and stars," Heather thought aloud, not taking her watch away from the distance. "Yeah, it's certainly a sight to behold," Scarlet affirmed the older vixen's thoughts. They continued to stare outwards for a while, enjoying the magnificence of the moonlit landscape, before Heather broke the silence again. "So, if you don't mind me asking," Heather paused and Scarlet turned to look at her. "You and Plucky, are you two, well, you know?" "What? No, I don't know." That was a rather mixed answer. "He seems very nice, though, brave and true, too." "Well, it's not like I haven't thought about it, but I just can't. I'm meant to be alone," Scarlet said somberly, looking down at her paws. "No one is meant to be alone, Scarlet," Heather reassured the younger vixen. "I am, especially when you're being hunted by your old troop for deserting them." "Oh, that's rough. That's why I have to be alone, so no one gets hurt because of me," Scarlet continued in her somber tone. "You know, I was like you before, minus the being hunted thing." Heather paused, looking back into the distance, before continuing in a poignant tone. "I was a loner, relying on my own instincts and not on anyone else. Got in some trouble at times, you know what I mean." She then picked up her tone and smiled. "But when I met Buck, that all changed. Now I couldn't imagine my life without him." "But how did you know that when you met him?" Scarlet asked, unconvinced. "It's hard to explain, but that's how you know." "Know what?" "That it's love." "I don't know, Heather," Scarlet moaned, still unconvinced by Heather's logic. "Okay, when you first met Plucky, how did you feel?" Well, I felt safe, happy, more loved than I had been for a long time," Scarlet said, exploring the deepest thoughts in her head and how she felt in her heart. "And how do you feel when you're around him now?" I don't know. I mean, I like him, but I just don't know." Scarlet paused and looked at Heather, realizing she was giving her a smug look with a sideways smile and a raised eyebrow. Okay, just because I don't know doesn't mean anything. I don't even know if he likes me. Trust me, he likes you. How do you know? Males think they can hide their feelings well, but once you get to where I am, you can see right through their straight faces. Heather chortled and continued with a smile. It's why Buck is terrible at lying. Well, even if Plucky does like me, I'm not sure if I'm ready to take a mate and settle down and have a family. That's exactly what I thought too. And last year me and Buck had our second litter. Heather paused, reminiscing in her thoughts about her cubs. Now they're all grown up and left to live their own lives. Do you see them often? Oh yes, though less so now. Most of them still live around here and come sometimes to visit. I never really was part of a loving family, Scarlet said sadly. You can have your own, though. Heather paused, realizing the young vixen was just that. Young. But you don't have to rush. You've still got your whole life ahead of you. Yeah, Scarlet chuckled. I suppose you're right. You just have to figure out what you want. But if you don't try, you'll never know. Heather finished with a smile. Thanks, Heather. I kinda needed to hear that. The two vixens stopped talking and continued to look across the darkened landscape. Soon after, Buck had come out and nuzzled Heather passionately. Passionately, is what I should say. They were just about to go hunting and invited Scarlet along, but she kindly declined. Scarlet had some deep thinking to do, and Buck and Heather took off into the moors under the moonlight. Scarlet sat firm on the rock, returning to her gaze, but this time started to drudge deep into her thoughts. Completely unaware that Dash, hidden in the darkness below the boulders, had heard the entirety of hers and Heather's conversation. Please do not let there be a third act misunderstanding. It is the most cliché love story trope of all time, and I would really rather it didn't appear in this story, please. Dash came rushing into the chamber of the earth where Plucky was resting in. He was lying down, resting his head on his legs, his tail curled round him. It startled Plucky slightly when Dash came in, as she looked to have been in a rush, but instantly remembered that Dash had only one version of traveling, and that was running. He smiled and lifted his head and decided to ask anyway. Hey Dash, you okay? Just checking on you. How are you doing? Dash inquired. Fine, really. But I'm so bored, Plucky exclaimed. I'd much rather be outside doing something. Plucky was desperate to get out and about again. Being stuck in one place for a long time was beginning to become unbearable. Well, remember why you need to rest, Dash continued, reminding the fox why he was stuck in here for the time being. Yes, I know, so I can actually use my leg again, Plucky said with a hint of sarcasm. And the sooner it gets better, the sooner we can race again. Yeah, but... Plucky paused and lowered his tone and his head. Dash, I don't think I'll be able to run as fast as I used to after this. Don't say that, of course you will. You heard Heather. She said that your leg will heal right up, Dash reassured her friend. She didn't say I would be able to run on it, though, Plucky grumbled. Nor did she say you couldn't. But if you can't run as fast as you used to, don't worry, I'll go easy on you. Dash smiled. Thanks. Plucky then smiled back, before placing his head back on his legs to rest. Dash then lied down opposite him to keep him company for a while. Hey, can I ask you a serious question, though? Dash pried. About Scarlet. Go on, Plucky said calmly, wondering what the question could possibly be. Do you think that if that human was aiming the gun at you, that she would have pushed you out the way? Dash asked the question in a calm manner, so as not to upset Plucky. She knew it was bold of her to ask a question like that, but she needed to know the answer. She let her ears fall down and gave Plucky a concerned look. Dash, that's a bit... Plucky was surprised she actually asked that question, but he soon realized, with the look on her face, as much as she wondered what the answer was, so did he. He paused a moment before speaking again. Well, I don't know. I'd like to think that she would have, but whatever happened, happened, and there's no way to change it. It's okay. I just wanted to ask. Look, the only thing I can really think about now is getting home. Once my leg is better, we're going back to White Deer Park. Whether she comes along or not is her decision, Plucky announced. Plucky, don't give up on her. There is something between you two. But you were just saying... I know what I was just saying. But I know that she does like you too. No offense, Dash, but what you think doesn't matter, Plucky said before being interrupted mid-sentence. Plucky, I don't think she likes you. I know she likes you, Dash said rather aggressively. Plucky was taken aback a moment. How do you know? I overheard her talking to Heather. About you. She paused and moved closer to Plucky, reducing her speech to a whisper. She said she does like you, but she doesn't know how she feels. Really? Plucky was surprised. Until now, he only had a hunch that Scarlet might have liked him, but now that he knew it, it was good to hear. Yes, but don't mention that I said anything, will you? Dash worried. No, of course not, Plucky assured the hare. But, wow, she does like me. Well, you did save her life, too. Yeah, I suppose I did. But you all saved mine. Plucky smiled and then chuckled. Just hope we don't have hassle like this when you meet a guy. Don't worry, I'm more careful than you, Dash posted. And there's no other hare out there that can tame me, she continued arrogantly and laughed. Unless it can beat me in a race. I'm not looking forward to that day. You know how competitive you get. Plucky sniggered jokingly. Hey! Dash said insulted, before remembering how competitive she actually was. Oh wait, you're right. The two best friends laughed for a while, before Dash broke the silence again, returning the conversation to where it was before it had sidetracked. So, you won't just give up, will you? Okay, I won't. But to be honest, Dash, as long as I still have you as a friend, I know I'm doing just right, Plucky beamed. Aw, Plucky, that's so sweet, Dash replied, flattered. Dash then snuggled up to Plucky, content with the warmth from each other. The fox and the hare drifted off to sleep together. Not gonna cry. Not gonna cry. I'm saving it for later. So adorable. Why weren't there any more moments like this in the actual show? Oh, wait. Yeah, but still, I wish it could have gone on. Anyway, a total of 3 months had passed by the time Plucky's wounds had healed sufficiently for him to be out and about again. Every one of them had left a very definitive scar, but Plucky was certainly feeling himself again. He was managing to walk outside to experience the surroundings, hunt for himself again, and more importantly, he was able to race Dash again, despite her always winning. Still. Scarlet joined in at times, but even her original cockiness was put down by Dash's speed. Plucky found it amusing watching them race. For the first time, he was a spectator, and he noticed that Scarlet was a bit of a bad loser. The weather was much colder now. They had spent the entire of autumn on the moorland, and winter was right around the corner. The cold, bitter wind from the north proclaimed it. Plucky was determined to get back to White Deer Park as soon as possible, and now his leg was better, he was certain he would be able to travel. The day soon came when it was time to leave, and the long journey home was to commence. Plucky and Dash left the entrance to the earth, followed by Buck and Heather. It was a cold, late autumn day. The sky was blotted with puffy white clouds as the low winter sun shone through. "If you're still insistent on leaving, I'd suggest you should go soon," Bucky proclaimed reluctantly. "You'll definitely want to get over the mountains before the snow starts to fall," Heather added on. "Aw, can't those two come with us?" "But then they're cubs and... pardon me." "Thank you, Buck, and thank you, Heather. Can't imagine what we would have done without your help," Plucky said sincerely. If it wasn't for Buck and Heather's help, they all most likely wouldn't have survived on the moorland. "Don't mention it. It's in our blood," Bucky assured the young fox, but was soon interrupted. "Wait! I'm coming with you!" Scarlet cried out, running out of the earth. "You sure?" Plucky asked, wondering what had made her decision. "It's the least I could do. Someone's got to watch your back. And Dash can't do it. She's always watching your front," Scarlet joked, and smiled at the fox and the hare. "It'll be great to have you along," Dash said as she and Plucky both smiled back at her. "Can't say I'm not sad to see you guys leave. It's been a pleasure having you here," Heather said. "It's been a pleasure to stay here too," Scarlet also thanked the fox couple. Come on, let's not drag this out. I hate goodbyes," Buck stammered, almost suppressing a tear, which made everyone chuckle, including himself. "Well, hopefully our paths will cross again someday," Plucky reassured his granduncle. "It's a small world. You never know," Buck announced. "Oh, that reminds me. Tell Fox I said hi," he finished with a smile. "Okay, I will," Plucky replied. "Go on, guys. You best get going. The journey is going to be tiring and difficult," Heather began. "And it's a long way from here to White Deer Park, and winter is coming," Buck interrupted. "Goodbye, Buck. Goodbye, Heather," the traveling trio said one after another before turning to leave. "Goodbye, and good luck," Heather called out after them. Plucky, Scarlet, and Dash proceeded to walk off while Buck and Heather watched, but didn't get very far when Buck called out again. "And go easy on that leg!" Bucky shouted cheerily out to Plucky. "Don't worry, I will!" Plucky cheerily shouted back. Then the journey had begun. Buck and Heather watched the fox, the vixen, and the hare disappear across the moorland, hoping they would be successful on their travels and get to White Deer Park safely. They knew fully about the dangers out there, not just from humans or other animals, but the environment too. However, they had gotten to know the three of them well over the last 3 months, and they knew, as long as they stuck together, they would make it. Plucky, Scarlet, and Dash knew they had a very long journey ahead of them. And they knew it wouldn't be easy either. South was the direction they wanted to travel, as the truck had taken them far north. They traveled at a steady pace, towards the snow-capped mountains, following the glowing orange orb of the midday winter sun, heading south, heading home. Ooh, a message from 14 Sleepyhead09. Just wanted to leave a note to say thanks to everyone who has read so far, and I hope everyone is enjoying the story. Thank you! I really am enjoying this a lot too. Amazing story here. I probably should have mentioned at the start, it's a very Plucky and Dash and own character story. Yeah, honestly, you should have. We haven't been in White Deer Park since Chapter 2. How are Fox and the others doing, man? What about the Grey Foxes? Also, I'm aware I changed the Farthing Wood canon there a bit by giving Fox a brother. The main reason for that is I didn't know the outcome of the prequel book until after I'd written this chapter. Just hope it didn't bother anyone, but I can justify why I never changed it either. Oh, don't worry, I've never read the prequel book, so, I'm not bothered at all. I'm gonna miss Bucky and Heather. I really hope they appear once again soon, or later. Well, everyone, that is Chapter 7 done. Apologies for the song at the beginning, but at least I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, my friends, I'm the Masked Ranger saying, keep moving forward, never lose your smile, and remember the oath. Toodaloo!